Hey guys, Jack's your free auto mechanic. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. It helps the channel out a lot. Those that have subscribed, thanks for getting us up over 6,000 subscribers. Driving down the road, light comes on, a little battery light on the dash, and also the display comes up and says battery saver issue, engine may stall. Look kind of like this. So he took it to the dealership. The dealership said, hey, you need this, 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 and this. I'm going to throw an alternator on there for him. First thing we need to do is get the hood up on this thing, disconnect the battery, and start taking some covers off so we can get access to the alternator itself. I'm just going to disconnect the negative side. Just take your 10 millimeter and loosen that nut. We're going to go ahead and remove this top cover, and you'll want to remove the oil fill cap. And there's a T30 star bit or Torx bit that you'll need to remove. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this clamp loose to 8 millimeter. And then I'm going to take the Phillips screws off of the outside of the air box. We'll go ahead and get those out of the way. And it's missing the one on the back side. So I guess we don't have to take that one loose. Kind of set that out the way. You can unplug this sensor if you want to, but you don't have to. You want to pull the red lock back and then squeeze it, and it'll come unplugged. I'm just going to set it right here out of my way. Get our air filter out. So you've got two T30 screws. You can leave this one there, remove the one on the back side here, or loosen it up, and then you can pull this out. Move it off to the side. Now I've got quite a bit of room to get down in here. Let me show you. Now this is all the room to get to our alternator. And it's still buried down in there. We still got to take the front half of this off, get the belt out of the way before we can start attempting to take some bolts loose. Now we're going to remove the serpentine belt. There's a 1/2 inch hole, female hole. For your adapter, you can use a 1/2 inch wrench. I've got a serpentine belt tool that I like to use. I'm just going to insert that in there. This is going to relieve some pressure. You notice our belt over here. I want to pull on it. And we'll just go ahead and slip that belt off. And like I said, I'm just going to leave the wrench on there. So we're going to have to use it to put it back on. Pay attention to your belt routing before you take it off. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to loosen up the idler bolt and remove the idler. That also serves as the lower bolt on the alternator. It's a 15 millimeter. sometimes it's a good idea to allow the engine to cool down before you start working on it. But you want to be careful with your hands down in here because this gets pretty hot. Be careful you don't lose everything. But you can get it out. Sound like I had a washer drop down below, so I have to grab that. Now we're going to move to the back side of the alternator. We're going to take the power cable loose. It requires a 17mm nut. You can use a wrench or a socket. I'm going to use a socket. We'll take that loose, and then there's an electrical connector on the bottom. It's a little easier to get to once we get these two remaining nuts removed. So that being said, we'll have to remove the two nuts and the two studs. That's about the only way I can see taking that alternator out of there without removing the engine. So I'm going to loosen these two 15mm nuts. Just a little bit, just so they're loose, there's no tension. And then I'm going to loosen these studs. Now these particular studs require a reverse Torx bit. This is an E8. And I'm just using a 1/4-inch ratchet here. There's not a whole lot of pressure on these studs, and they are tightened into an aluminum head. So you want to keep that in mind. You shouldn't have to put too much pressure on these. Now we got the alternator loose. We can wiggle it around a little bit. And you can see this tab right here. This is the other wire connector. Just push down on this and pull. Kind of difficult for you to see, but it's going right loose. And now the alternator is completely free. There's no bolts. It looks like it'd be simple enough. Maybe come out the front or out the top. Woo! And look at there. With a shoehorn, you can get it out. So be careful with your fingers, pinching them, trying to get that alternator out. I pinched mine a few times. Make sure you watch your wires and cables. We got the old alternator out. Now it's time to get the new alternator back in. If you need one for your vehicle, I'll put a link down in the description so that you can order one for yourself. All right, got her in there. Reverse order on connecting the wire. You want to make sure that when you're putting it in, that you get it lined up correctly, and you hear that snap. And then we can roll it around and see about getting our studs put back in. Get your studs started. Let's go ahead and tighten the studs all the way up, but you want to leave the nuts somewhat loose until you get your idler put in. We'll need to reuse the nut off the old alternator on the new alternator to attach the cable. $17mm. Doesn't have to be super tight, just snug. You're not trying to hurt it or anything. Just want it to be connected. Our electrical connectors are now complete. We've got 2 studs in. Now we need to put in our idler pulley. Alright, we're going to install the idler. And remember earlier I said I sounded like something dropped. It was this spacer. You want to make sure that you have that spacer in there, or your belt's not going to line up properly on your idler. Let's see if we can't get this back in here. $15mm, in case you forgot. Now our next feat is going to be to try and get the belt back on. That did pop off on the crankshaft down below, so I'll have to crawl up underneath of it, put it back on the crankshaft, and then fish it back up here. Sometimes you can get lucky and fish the belt around with a pry bar. Got the belt on. Last thing we want to do is tighten up the nuts that hold the alternator on. So we've got the belt back installed. We've got the alternator tightened up. All our electrical connections are the way they're supposed to be. We just need to put the air box back on, get our cover on, start it up, and test it out. So the inside of this air box has got a lot of debris in it. So I'm going to go ahead and empty and clean that out while we're here. All right, so we've got it back together. We'll see how it sounds here. Fires right up. And lo and behold, the battery light is out. And no more horrible message that says it's going to stall while we're driving down the road, because that's just horrible. I couldn't imagine driving down the road and the engine just die. So it's nice that we got that taken care of. Now that we know that it's running good, let's pop the hood, load test the battery, check, make sure we got the right kind of charging volts that we're looking for. It's always good to test to make sure that the alternator is actually charging, and we can see that it is 13.25 volts. Also hook it up to my load tester. Glowing hot, holding good. No more message on the center that says it's going to stall. We've checked the battery, load tested it, it's holding great. We checked the charging. The alternator is putting out 13.25 volts, so we know it's charging. The battery light is no longer on the dash. We're in good shape. It's time to put it back on the road. Thanks for watching.